Hello, everyone. We're back with another episode of Life and Law. And tonight we have a very special guest with us, Allie from Connecticut. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And so can you just start by just introducing yourself and just telling our listeners just a little short bio about yourself?
My name's Allie. I'm 33. I'm from Connecticut. I saw the Kim Sullivan stuff on the news back in March, like everyone. It was all over the news. And it hit me really hard seeing like what the victim had been through with that. And I started going out to the Kim Sullivan hearings to protest try to advocate for justice for him. So I've been going out there with my protest sign. A lot of people have asked me why I keep going out, and my childhood wasn't as bad as his, but I see a lot of parallels of things that he went through and what I went through. And it hit me really hard seeing that. And it just bothers me. This guy has nobody outside of Kim's house. Who does he have like outside of that house? Like there's nobody there for him. So it just broke my heart and just made me want to try to do everything I can to help him, because I mean, he's got these court appointed people and that's pretty much it. What happens when he's done with rehab and the trial's over? Who does he have like outside of that? Nobody. So I just want to do whatever I can to like try and help him. So yeah.
Well, that's really, admirable that you're taking time out of your busy life to pay attention and court watch and follow this case. And for those who aren't familiar, the Kim Sullivan case briefly is a woman who was arrested, I believe, back in March of this year. And it's in Waterbury, Connecticut. And her stepson set the house on fire. And then he told the responders that he had been held captive by his stepmother, Kim Sullivan, and he was then taken away, and he was arrested shortly after, and now she's facing charges. And so her charges are pending in the Waterbury Judicial District. And so do you happen to know what the charges are? We could look it up.
The charges, I don't have them offhand. I'd have to look those up. I know assault, kidnapping, I think unlawful restraint. I'd have to Google it. I don't have it in front of me. Sorry, I should have pulled that up beforehand. I know she's got like 3 felonies and 2 misdemeanors. I remember that off the top of my head. I know I think they said she's facing like 40 years. I mean, she's already 57. I mean, even if she gets convicted tomorrow, like she's not going to do that full sentence.
So what would you say shocked you the most about this case? Because I know it made nationwide news and a lot of people were intrigued by the case because it was just so disturbing, a lot of the details, and it really hit close to home for a lot of us from Connecticut. But as someone who's been following it very closely, what would you say is the most shocking thing that you learned in this case?
I wouldn't say shocking exactly, but what bothers me the most is just thinking of the isolation and loneliness this guy has been through for like almost his entire life. And that hit me really hard because that's something I've dealt with a lot as well. And just thinking about how, again, like absolutely nobody was there for him. And just thinking about like the hell that must have been to be alone in this tiny room almost 24/7 for decades. He was in there for 20 years. Like that is horrific to think about. So I think of like all the loneliness and isolation I've experienced. And then I think of how much more it's amplified in his case. And that's what just kills me and just breaks my heart with it.
Yeah, it's really is shocking. And I think for me, probably one of the most shocking things is that nobody intervened in all of those years. Like, where was DCF? Where was Waterbury PD? Where was
came to his house 6 times. They did nothing.
How many times?
They came 6 times between 96 and 2005. Yeah, that DCF showed up 6 times, did absolutely nothing. S said in the arrest warrant that Kim instructed him to lie to DCF, but how is it as the adults with DCF, how is it they're not seeing through something's wrong here? It also bothers me a lot. They put out that statement in July saying, oh, well, we followed procedure at the time. That was 20 years ago. We've improved our standards since then. And that's not entirely true, because we look at that New Britain case that just came out, and that happened last year. So what meaningful changes have they made in 20 years when they literally, in the past year, just allowed somebody else to, like, it's like the same situation. So I don't understand what the hell DCF is doing in these cases. Like, they're not doing their jobs.
Yeah. And it's just like the fact that DCF came to the home at all and then was able to close the investigation. And I think that DCF was under federal oversight plan for 30 years or 40 years, and it just recently ended in, I think, 2023. So during that time, they were under federal oversight, they were under scrutiny, and they're still letting these cases slip through the cracks. And so now, from what I understand, after Kim Sullivan was arrested, S was appointed a conservator from the courts, the probate court in Waterbury, correct?
Yes.
And so from this article that recently came out in the CT Insider, it's basically saying that there were allegations that the court-appointed conservator, Kristen Exner, was selling vulnerable individuals' homes. And this is with somebody that she had a relationship with. And then she was basically flipping these houses for way more money than what the purchase was. And so can you walk us through a little bit about how this is able to happen even while there's supervision of the probate court, and if they can explain how it works with the oversight in this type of case?
So according to the CT Insider article, what happened was Kristen Exner was appointed to this woman named Barbara Tobin. And what she did was she sold Barbara's home against her will to her college friend, Joe Guerin. And they left Barbara homeless. Kristen is supposed to be in charge of taking care of Barbara, and she leaves her homeless and drains her money. So, she sold the house to her college friend, Joe Guerin. She apparently, according to the article, has told the court for the last several years, oh, I didn't know Joe Guerin. I just took a math class with him. I don't know him. I don't know him. But somehow it was figured out that she actually started an LLC with Joe Guerin right before she flipped Barbara's house with him. So how are you going to say you don't know this guy you went to college with 20 years ago, but you set up an LLC with him right before you did this house flipping deal? And she said, according to the article, she said she had no idea he was going to flip the house. But then it says she's listed as like a witness on like the sale. So it's like, how do you, like, she signed her name on there. Like, it just makes no sense, like, why she's like lying about this stuff. She thought she could hide that under LLC, apparently under her married name, Kristen Sullivan, which is just a bizarre coincidence. I don't know if she's related to Kim Sullivan, Craig Sullivan, whatever. That's just another weird coincidence with it. But yeah, she thought she could get away with hiding the LLC under her married name. She doesn't really publicly go by. And that's what happened with that. So now the Tobin attorney has filed a motion for disbarment for Kristen Exner. So how is she supposed to be taking care of S when she's over here leaving her previous clients homeless? She's facing disciplinary action. I don't see how this woman is supposed to be taking care of S. And also, if you Google her, she had a failed animal rescue where she was knowingly adopting out sick animals to people. And then these dogs were dying hours after they were adopted. So she got shut down in Danbury and Wolcott for that around like 2018, 2019. And then apparently she goes on to taking care of like disabled and elderly people. So I just can't grasp how you go from neglecting animals to neglecting people and exploiting people, and why that's even allowed. She showed with Tales of Courage she should not be in charge of anyone or anything. And now the state it's just mind-blowing and disturbing that they have now appointed her to this case.
And according to this article, it seems like she is regularly appointed to many cases, and which raises some red flags and concerns, because it seems as if the courts are aware of this behavior, but they're still continuing to appoint her. So do you believe that maybe there might be some corruption going on with the judges and everything like that?
I don't know what other conclusion to come to when she's got all these prior issues and they keep appointing her case after case. I don't know how else to explain that other than there has to be some kind of corruption going on behind the scenes. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but there's definitely red flags with that.
Yeah. And in the article, her attorney, Christopher Harrington, says, simply because someone creates an LLC does not mean that they did any business. So
Well,
you're
see,
telling
that's irrelevant though, because it's not a question of whether she did business with him. The question in court was whether she knew him or not. And obviously, yes, you do know him if you are setting up an LLC with him. So the question isn't like what business they did together. It's did you know him prior to the or before this sale took place? Obviously, you do if you have a business with him. So that's where she lied.
Exactly. And then it's like, as an attorney, she's testifying under penalty of perjury, under oath in a court proceeding. And so that alone can have discard. And I think that we see time and time again in Connecticut that these attorneys seem to get away with everything. And when you do try to take disciplinary action and report them to the bar or file a grievance, oftentimes they're protected because the people who are overseeing are the ones who are also attorneys and judges and their friends. And so it's a very small state, a very small bar. It's a very tight-knit legal community where everyone knows everyone. And when things like this are going on, people are scared to speak up because they don't want to be retaliated against. Nobody wants to be the one to get on the judge's bad side or get on the bad side of the attorney that's helping them facilitate these things.
Right.
So, and, you know, so you believe that, Kristen, that this is part of a bigger pattern with potentially more multiple properties, and that maybe that this could be happening on a larger scale?
I think that's definitely possible and needs to be investigated. I also want to point out with Tales of Courage, she didn't face any of the charges. Everything I've read about that is she was the one really calling the shots there. She never faced any consequences for what happened in Danbury or Wolcott. An on-site manager named Crystal Lopez took the fall and she had charges against her. But from what I've seen, Crystal didn't really have any real power. It was Kristen Exner who was in charge of everything. So she didn't have any consequences there. I'm skeptical whether she'll have consequences in the Tobin case. I want to believe in the justice system and that they'll hold her accountable because she literally lied to the judge's face. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I don't know. There's definitely something sketchy going on behind the scenes that needs to be investigated and the public needs to be looking at. I think they get away with a lot of this stuff because people generally don't pay attention to the probate courts. So I think that's like they're operating in like they're not like hiding it so much, but like it's also not like something people are really paying attention to either. So I think they exploit that.
Right, because there's really not much accountability, because once the conservator is assigned and appointed by the probate court, it's not like the judge is giving them a follow-up every week or micromanaging them and seeing what's going on. If the other side isn't filing motions and notifying the court is not going to be involved in what's happening outside of the courtroom. And so I think accountability becomes a big part of it.
Another thing to note in the CT Insider article, it says she didn't even get probate approval, like to sell Barbara Tobin's house. You're supposed to go through the courts and get approval that that's what's in the best interest of your client. She didn't do that. She sold the house on day one, didn't get any other meaningful offers. She just went with the first person, which happened to be a friend of hers. And it does say in the CT Insider article, that wasn't even the first time they had pulled that. There was another, I believe her name was Mary Mayer. They pulled that in her case as well. Yeah, I believe that was 2023. She did, or 2021. Yeah, 5 months before the sale, Exner had set up a company with Garen. They are listed. Blah blah blah. Yeah, no, it wasn't even the first time Kristen had like flipped a house. That it says in here there was another incident where she pulled that with Joe Garen.
Yeah, and they resold the property and they made $150,000 profit.
Mhm.
That was
Yeah,
in
Barbara got nothing.
2023.
Yes.
And so in the article, it says that she was appointed in March of 2025 to manage S's medical care and also to manage a GoFundMe, was a donation fundraiser, which was set up by the Safe Haven in Waterbury, managed by Amanda Nardozzi. And this was supposed to be dedicated to his recovery. And as of the date of the article being published, stated to have reached $337,773. So
Yeah.
who was supposed to be in charge of all that money? And are you aware of, or is there any information released about how that money has been used?
So his case has been sealed. So there is no oversight on what's going on with that GoFundMe money. It's supposed to be the conservator, Kristen Exner, who's in charge of that. But as we can see from this CT Insider article, she has a history of mismanaging her clients' funds and assets. So that is a big red flag to me. I am very concerned about, is he even getting access to his money? Are his bills being paid, etc.? I know last Friday at Kim's hearing, NBC tried to question his criminal attorney, Eugene Riccio, whether or not he was getting access to his funds, and he refused to comment on that. So that's another like red flag, in my opinion. It's like that should be a simple yes, of course he's getting his money. As far as the CT Insider article, so there's a motion for disbarment for Kristen Exner. I believe that's dated October 8th on there. But it's interesting because a lot of people, like, there's over 5,000 donations to that GoFundMe. A lot of people have been invested in that, like literally like sending their money to it. So in a previous update, they said at the end of June, we're going to be closing the GoFundMe. And then everybody was wondering after the end of June, okay, it's still up. Like, what's going on? Safe Haven went radio silent and wasn't saying anything. But it's interesting because we look at this CT Insider article with this link to this disbarment notice. And the same day, or it was the day after the disbarment notice, that's when Safe Haven put out this update saying, oh, well, we're closing the account because if he continues to receive donations, it's going to mess with his eligibility for Medicaid. It seemed very clear to me reading between the lines after reading the disbarment thing that they were trying to distance themselves as much as possible with that GoFundMe money. And they kept saying, oh, well, it's been transferred to his attorney. It's been transferred over to them. We don't have it. The conservator has it. But it's just interesting. Why are you guys closing it the same day she has this motion for disbarment?
So nobody knows what's happened to this money at all. I just want to share my screen for a minute, and I want to bring up this this fundraiser here. So, okay.
Yeah, you can see the name Kristen Exner on there. Yeah.
So let's just look at this here. So it's not closed. It looks like it is still, oh no, donations are paused. It says here it's currently not accepting donations. And it says that we have in the GoFundMe, it's claiming that the funds that are raised will go toward providing the victim with medical and dental care, counseling and therapy for physical and emotional recovery, housing and daily living expenses as he rebuilds his independence, support for legal fees, ensuring he can pursue justice for the abuse he suffered. It says every donation, no matter how small, will help give the survivor a chance to heal, rebuild, and find peace. Please consider supporting him in this journey toward recovery and freedom. And it states that this GoFundMe is being managed by Safe Haven of Greater Waterbury Incorporated, and all funds will go directly to the victim through a trust account. Safe Haven of Greater Waterbury Incorporated is a 501c3. Safe Haven of Waterbury Inc. has been providing confidential support to victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse since 1978. And it says that this was co-organized by Safe Haven of Greater Waterbury and Kristen Exner, created on March 13th, 2025. And I believe that they had an update on here, which doesn't seem to be here anymore, which is a little bit strange, but
No, if you tap see older updates, it's still up there. So I just pulled that the other day.
where's the see older? Do you see that?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it is missing. I've seen it on mobile. I mean, I usually look at it on my phone.
This is interesting. Let's check on the phone, because I remember seeing the other day that there was literally
Yeah.
an update that stated that all the money was going to the directly through their attorney.
Oh, that's interesting. Yes, that has been removed. Yeah, see if that's available on mobile. Hold up.
Because if they deleted it, then that also is, a little suspicious.
That just proves my point. Yeah.
They did. There's no updates at all.
Oh, well, you know what? If you go to the Kimberly Sullivan subreddit, the screenshots are up on there. So they can try to hide it as much as they want. Right.
It appears that they definitely deleted the update. But from what I remember, it was, and you can confirm with the screenshots, but it was along the lines of them saying that the money was going to be distributed to him through the trust. So
Yeah.
It seems as if there is no clarity as to where the money is, who can access it, whether it's being tracked or accounted for. And the fact that now they went ahead and deleted the update about the funds, saying that funds are going to be distributed through the attorney, shows that maybe they're trying to hide something.
Yeah.
And so do you know if there was ever any plan for S to get any like mail or cards or anything directly from the public?
Safe Haven said that they could be like a place to send that kind of stuff. They said that back in March, that they were willing to accept letters and cards. They said no actual items, but letters and cards were fine.
And so do you believe that their motive behind pausing this fundraiser was to avoid further questions, or do you think that this was to somehow protect him?
I think it's obvious when you look at the disbarment notice that's dated the exact same day. I mean, if you check your email, I just sent you the update that they deleted, so you can read that yourself. It's in your email. Yeah, no, I think it's very obvious. That's not a coincidence. When you say we're going to be ending the GoFundMe at the end of June, and then all the way on October 8th, the same day Kristen has a motion for disbarment, that's when they shut it down. It's obvious. So it does say, thank you to all who have donated. We really appreciate your support and compassion for the survivor. The community's generosity has been incredible. The GoFundMe was created as a short-term way to help with the survivor's immediate needs after the incident. It remained open for over 5 months, and we were able to raise significant funds to support their recovery. At this point, the fundraiser has been closed. All funds have been transferred directly to the survivor through the attorney. Safe Haven did not retain any of the money. Our goal was to make sure the survivor received immediate medical assistance during a critical time. So that's October 8th. And then October 7th, we have this motion for disbarment. It's obvious why they shut it down.
And this is filed in the Milford Probate Court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So the fact that they would literally say, I knew I remembered reading that, but the fact that they would say it's all been transferred directly to the attorney, through the attorney, that means that S should have received a little bit less than 340,000.
He should have, but I mean, Kristen has a history of financial misconduct. So did he get it? Nobody knows. The case is sealed.
Well, that doesn't mean that it still can't be audited and we can't have it be looked into. And so I think the fact that people are starting to ask these questions is the first step. And it's not the first time that attorneys in Connecticut have been involved in misconduct. It seems to be the norm. And so, even in the article, it says that Exner said in a statement to Connecticut Insider that Connecticut statutes do not require the disclosure of a relationship to another attorney or buyer in the sale of real property. Probate attorneys interviewed, however, said that a conservator who sells property to a friend or business partner without disclosing that relationship to the court would violate conservator standards of practice in governing statutes.
Yeah.
So the fact that other attorneys are saying that this violates their ethical obligations and the statute, but that she seems to think that it's not mandatory, it just shows an overall attitude that she thinks that the rules don't apply to her.
Exactly. And that's my point with that. So I am deeply concerned about how she's managing S's GoFundMe. She has a history of not even bothering to get probate approval. She just seems to do what she wants. So what's she doing with S's money? What happened to the over 5,000 donations that he received? Where is that? Are his bills getting paid? Like what's going on there?
Yeah, and I think that, to all those people who did donate, that probably did so because they thought they were helping him and trying to do whatever they could to help. I think those individuals who donated should be the ones asking those questions and maybe contacting Safe Haven and this attorney and demanding answers, because it seems like maybe GoFundMe also should do an investigation to see what's going on with this, because there's been many times when people have been forced to pay back the money when it was proven that they weren't giving it directly to the purpose that they claimed. So I would suggest, if there's anyone out there who donated, that perhaps you should reach out to Safe Haven and ask for clarification, because I think it's concerning that they would give an update only to then quickly delete it the next day.
Well, it's the same thing with the internet that screenshots exist. So, I mean, I've donated to the GoFundMe multiple times because I want to see him have every resource available to him. I want him to get the help that he needs. I was pushing the link on social media. I can see from that Your Impact thing, I did help bring in more donations to that. So this feels like a slap in the face that this is how they're managing it behind the scenes. Yeah, there's a lot of questions that need to be raised.
Yeah. And do you also think that there's also red flags in terms of who is speaking for S and his interests and who's actually benefiting? Because to your knowledge, has he made any statements through his attorney, or has he publicly been heard from at all? Or do we know if he's okay?
He gave one statement back in April saying he was going to go by the name S and for people to respect his privacy and the process. He said he was grateful to his attorney and conservator, which now with this info about Kristen is just a little odd. Like he's saying how how grateful he is to the conservator. So that was pretty much all we got, was that one statement from back in April. I could pull that up. But yeah, I mean, nobody has heard from him since. So huh?
Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I am friends with his mom and his biological mom, not Kim's disgusting ass. And his older half sister, Heather. So I did not know them prior to all of this, but I've become friends with them since. I know damn well they have been stonewalled at every opportunity. Nobody will cooperate or give them any kind of information or update as to how he's doing. Even last week when the news asked Eugene Riccio, the criminal attorney for us in the Kim case, can you give a general update on how he's doing? No, I can't answer that. It's like, really? You can't just say like we're not asking for a full medical breakdown. It's like, oh yes, he's improving. Thank you. That shouldn't be that difficult to answer. Or I tried to ask him about the mail situation. I was like, can you confirm whether or not he's receiving his mail? He would not answer that question either. He completely ignored me. And I did try to pull him aside after. He was like, oh, I can't answer that. It's like, really? This should be a simple yes or no thing. Is he getting his mail? Even people in prison get mail. So that just makes me wonder, is his mail being restricted? Are they purposely isolating him to further exploit him? Which I find outrageous, because he risked his life to leave one abusive situation, and for what? To potentially have been placed in another one? I don't know. Like, I'm just asking questions. So, I mean, I don't know. The whole thing is absurd. But anyway, back to Heather and Tracy. Yeah, they don't know where he is. They have not heard anything. Nobody will cooperate with giving any kind of info. He does have this Survivor Says advocate named Dave Garino. And I have seen his correspondence with Heather, what little that is. And I felt he was dismissive and not helpful with that. I know he has since ignored her efforts to reach out and ask, like, hey, how's he doing? Just completely ignored. So.
And so back to Kim Sullivan. A lot of people are bringing up the question of why was she the only person that was charged, and why her daughters were not also charged. Do you think that the daughters not being charged is because they're innocent, or do you think prosecutors don't have enough evidence, or what are your thoughts on that?
I can only guess not enough evidence to prove intent, but the fact is they were aware that this has been going on for the last 30 years. And everybody wants to say, oh, well, he was pulled out of school in 2005. This has been 20 years. No, if you read the arrest warrant, as says, the earliest memories he has of being starved and locked in a room was age 3. He is 32 years old. This has gone on for like pretty much like 30 years. So all of Jamie Sullivan and Alyssa Sullivan, the younger half sisters, all of their lives, they were aware and I believe conditioned to see him as less than human, which is just disgusting. We see Alyssa Sullivan on her TikTok thinking this situation is funny, making little AI edits of herself as a judge in a courtroom and as a skeleton. She had her TikTok name as Closet Vocalist for a while. Like, how dare you have the audacity to put the word closet in your username on TikTok? Of all the usernames you could choose, you're going to go with closet when the allegations are that he was locked in a storage closet. Like, it's just mind blowing, like how tone deaf this girl is. So I don't think they have any guilt or remorse. They got to go live their lives, and we can see, because they did not scrub their social media history. Like, you can see their high school, like, social media stuff. They got to go live normal lives and have friends and go off to private school. And that's also something I want to point out. They got to go to private school. He was pulled out of Waterbury public schools in 4th grade. And obviously they can't send the younger daughters to the same school they just pulled him out of. So they got to go off to nice, fancy private school, which sorry, I'm trying so hard to like not go over the top with how much these girls disgust me. But no, I just don't understand why these girls are not being held accountable. They knew damn well he was in that closet. They knew it, and they did nothing. And I've seen arguments that, well, they were kids and they were probably afraid of Kim too. It's like, no, those girls are almost 30 now. They have been out of that house for a decade. They have had plenty of time to see the real world, and that is not normal to lock and starve somebody in a closet, let alone your brother. That's not even like their stepbrother. That is their half brother. That is their blood, and they just do not care. It's just disgusting. So they've had plenty of time to do something and speak up, and they've done nothing. They're just posting stupid little TikTok videos, doing stupid little dances outside his bedroom window. Like that's what they were doing. Or like with stupid little TikToks in the kitchen while he's upstairs starving to death. It's just absolutely disgusting. So the last update we got about charges for them was back in May. The Waterbury police chief said something along the lines of, and I'm paraphrasing, well, if we don't charge the daughters, well, you just have to trust us. And it's like, really? You guys are the same people that left him to die for 20 years. And we're supposed to trust them. That's the answer. Just like a trust me, bro. It's like, no, why should the public trust Waterbury PD when they went to that house multiple times and did nothing to help him? But now all of a sudden they're being all protective of him. And it also says, like, in that warrant, S made a comment like he was treated like a secret his entire life. And from where I'm sitting, just like as a public spectator or whatever, he went from being Kim's secret to now he's the state's secret. So there's no oversight on what's going on.
Yeah, and it's really concerning, especially with Waterbury specifically, and with the police department in Waterbury and the DCF in Waterbury and the probate court and the criminal system. In this specific situation, do you have any concerns about, other than the fact that they seem to want to press charges on the daughters or anyone else from that household? What other concerns about Waterbury police do you have regarding the treatment of this case with us?
I mean, I feel like there's been a lack of transparency with the public, and I understand there's only so much they can share, like before trial. But I mean, they haven't said anything about this since May. I feel like they are kind of obligated to give like some minor updates or like say, I don't know, literally anything. Nobody knows anything right now. I mean, I'm not from Waterbury. I'm from Connecticut. I don't want to say where exactly I live, but so I don't know Waterbury and the police like that out there, but I do not think they're doing a good job so far. And it's also, they bragged about how they gave S like a bunch of gifts in the beginning. That gave me the idea to like try to send some gifts. And I don't know, I got stonewalled trying to do that. So I don't know. It's okay when the police give him gifts when it makes them look good, but the public, no, they can't send anything. So
yeah, and my ex lives in Waterbury, and I have a lot of experience dealing with the Waterbury Police Department, and you can't even, you call the Waterbury Police, they have a third-party company that answers the phone and screens the calls. You can't even talk to an officer. You have to talk to this third-party Northwest Communications Incorporated that they like use to outsource their dispatch. So then they say, oh, we'll send it to an officer, and then the officer will decide whether or not they're going to go out. But if you want to make a report, you can't walk into the police department and write a statement or make a report. You have to go through that third-party company, make a call to one of these, officers who's out in the field, and then they'll determine whether or not you get to make a report. And it's just like the whole structure is completely messed up. There's a lot of concerns. I mean, it says here she only had a $300,000 bond and she's out on bail. So she paid probably, around $20,000 or so to get out with that kind of bail. And the fact that her bail is so low, but there's people in Connecticut who are sitting in prison on $1 million bond for a trespassing charge or something so minuscule. And it says that Waterbury police charged her with first-degree assault, second-degree kidnapping, unlawful restraint, cruelty to persons, and reckless endangerment. So for those kind of charges to have what seems like a low bond compared to a lot of other people for lesser charges, to me is showing proof of, corruption within the system in Waterbury itself. And the fact that Waterbury DCF was heavily involved with this family. I remember at first they came out and said that they had no records whatsoever that they had any involvement with this family. And then all of a sudden now they say, oh, we do have some records. So again, go look on Google. Waterbury DCF has like 1 star. Go read the reviews and, try calling and try to make a report and see how they talk to you and see how they act. It is disgusting. And I think that not only are they not protecting children, but that they are actively and knowingly endangering children and covering up and hiding real abuse.
I mean, the way I interpreted their July statement when they put out their whole 2 pages of findings on S's case, we investigated ourselves and found nothing wrong. Like that's how I read that statement. So, I mean, there's that. Also, back to the bail thing. Nobody understands how Kim was able to bail out. People looked into her background. She worked crappy retail jobs at Macy's and J.C. Penney's. I don't know if you've worked retail, but like I've worked it, you are not pulling $30,000 out of your ass overnight. She bonded out the next day. So if we also look into her past, her and Craig both filed for bankruptcy within 5 years of each other. How did she bond out? Nobody knows that one either. No retail employee is pulling $30,000 out of their ass that quickly.
Yeah. And so now back to, the Waterbury Judicial District, which obviously is where Kim's case is being prosecuted, and the Waterbury Probate Court is where this now sealed case regarding the conservatorship and, management of the estate for S. Do you believe that this is a full structural problem, or that it's maybe like a bad actor issue? Because I myself had some experience with some individuals from Waterbury Probate, including probate judge Matthew Vaccarelli, who personally committed misconduct handling one of my cases. And so I had, very negative experience with Judge Vaccarelli and the probate system. Do you feel that is isolated to certain attorneys, certain judges, or do you think that the entire system needs extreme oversight and reform?
I mean, from everything I've seen, I think it definitely needs to be reformed. I don't think there's enough oversight over the court systems. There's clearly a lot of corruption going on behind the scenes, and that's only what the public is aware of. God only knows what else is going on behind the curtain. So I think the public should be questioning what's going on with these systems.
And do you think that the mayor has any involvement, or do you think that the mayor in Waterbury is at least complicit in some of this stuff?
I mean, I'm not from Waterbury, so I don't know too much about him. Personally, I am not a fan of him just because, I tried to send some gifts to S in the beginning of this, and his office gave me a very difficult time about that. And his PR secretary was like, well, we don't want it to get lost in the office. And it's like, you just went and told CNN you are committed to doing everything possible to helping this guy, but you can't pass on like a Nintendo DS for him and a Pokemon game. Like, that's where we draw the line. And then the mayor, he did tell me, because I went over the PR lady's head, and he was like, oh, well, if you bring it in, we'll make sure it gets to him. And then they never confirmed to me whether or not he actually received that. So I just assume it went in the garbage or something, like they just took it to shut me up. I don't know. I'm not a fan of him. He seems fake to me, but I don't know enough about him as a person, or like how he's running Waterbury. I saw Amanda Nardozzi from Safe Haven. I don't know if she won that election. She was running for like city council or something like that. I'd have to go look it up. But I don't know. Maybe she's too busy with her political career to deal with Safe Haven. I don't know. I guess she found time to delete those updates, but
yeah, that's definitely interesting that they would do that. And I also had some experience with Safe Haven myself, trying to contact them back in 2023 regarding concerns of DV and SA and things like that, and regarding child abuse. And they basically have a system set up where you can't even talk to a real person. If you do get a real person, they just hang up in your face. They're rude. Their website has some chatbot thing that doesn't even work. There's lots and lots of money, federal funding through grants that they receive that are going and being funneled into nonprofit. But what exactly are they doing? Who do they help? How much do they spend on helping those people? And can you verify that? It seems like this is just straight money laundering to me. But back to the Kim case. So I know that there was another article that came out in CT Insider, I believe on Friday last week. And it's talking about how the judge recently at a hearing in Kim's case had ruled and basically granted the defense the permission to have the name and location S and his new identity and address. And so can you summarize kind of what happened in that hearing? I know you were there, and can you tell like why does it matter?
Yeah, I sat in on that hearing. I've been going to all of them. So what happened was Kim, there were 3 motions that day. The first was for Kim to requesting that her GPS be removed because it's an inconvenience to her. It's like, wow, we feel so bad for you, Kim. Like, you get to go wherever you want with this GPS monitor. And S was locked in a closet for 20 years. But yeah, you've got it real hard. So there was that. The judge denied removing her GPS. And then there was the motion for Colloidus and Kim to get access to S's medical records and his new name and his location of whatever rehab he's at, I guess, wherever he's staying. I hear he's still in rehab. So the judge granted that, and now Colloidus and Kim get to know his new name and where he is. His biological mom, Tracy, and his older half-sister, Heather, they don't get to know anything. And I understand restricting that information from the general public, but I think that's pretty messed up that even his real mom and his sister don't get to know anything at all. I don't know if that's S's choice or if that's the people around him. I just don't trust the people around him because you see all these misconduct issues and stuff going on. But yeah, that's the motions that they went over on Friday last week was the GPS and Kim and Colloidus getting access to his new name and location, which this is a domestic violence case. Why would you give the abuser his new name and his address and then request to have your GPS taken off at the same time? Like, I saw a lot of people in the comment sections were calling that out. Like, that's just asking for free reign to go harass him. And it's straight up says in the arrest warrant, when DCF came to the house, Kim coerced S to lie. And she probably did that with her daughters too. And that's also cool how she gets all this free time to go live with her daughter and go shopping with her daughter. I'm quoting the prosecutor. That's how she spends her days, shopping with her daughter and going to the park. And they have all this time to make sure they've got their story straight. Kim gets to tamper with witnesses and manipulate their version of the story for when Alyssa and Jamie get called in to testify. And that's okay. Like, I don't know. This whole system is just a goddamn joke to me. So yeah, Kim gets to know where he is now and his new name.
And so was the GPS request granted to get it removed?
No. So she's been requesting that every time. She cries about, well, sometimes I have to recharge it. It's like, okay, you have a phone. You're sitting there recharging your phone too. What's the difference? I don't feel bad for her. To quote Colloidus, he said, I don't care about S's feelings. I don't care about Kim's feelings. She gets to walk free. She gets to go wherever she wants. So what if she has a GPS monitor on? She shouldn't even be out walking free. She should be on house arrest. She shouldn't have any access to her daughters. That is witness tampering right there. And even Colloidus said, oh, we're going to have witnesses that dispute what S is saying. It's like, yeah, it's her daughters who she's had a lifetime to condition into seeing him as less than human. It's straight up witness tampering. Why is that allowed? I don't understand that one.
Right. And in this new article, they also said that the state is saying, the judge stated that the state of Connecticut prosecution is getting to the point where they might be offering her a plea. And Colloidus said the only plea that she'll accept is a nollie. And that, quote, he called the case, quote, a hoax and a witch hunt. And it says that the state's attorney opposes any changes to conditions of release, noting that S is terrified of Sullivan, and stated that she spends her days mostly going shopping with her daughter and in parks in the area, and stated that now the claim that GPS monitoring is too intrusive stands for the argument that this is an appropriate condition, because it just seems that she's trying to just get any type of leniency and special treatment that she can possibly get, but she didn't care about what she was doing to us. And I just feel like that Colloidus tried to present this case to the public. He presents that she's this innocent victim of being charged with something that she's innocent of, and he shows zero compassion for the victim.
I can't stand Colloidus. He is gaslighting the public. That is what he's doing. He is gaslighting the public. I also want to point out we haven't heard a word from Kim. He is the one speaking for Kim. So when he constantly goes out and does these press conferences and these interviews and he's bullying S, that's just a reflection of Kim's attitude towards S. So he's kind of in a way just proving the point that, yeah, Kim has been bullying him his entire life. Like, he's just an extension of that. So it's disgusting. I know last Friday he was talking about, oh, well, we're professional attorneys. We have ethics. It's like, what ethics do you have? You are lying to the public. You are knowingly lying, because he said in another press conference, oh, well, I haven't seen any evidence that he was 68 pounds. And that is a straight up lie, because he has seen the uncensored body camera footage from when S was rescued. And even in the censored version, it is abundantly clear he is a stick figure. So for him to have sat there and seen that uncensored video and say, oh, I haven't seen any evidence, that's a straight up lie. I can't stand Colloidus. It is infuriating watching him speak.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of him either. And I just think his attitude, and you can tell he just like eats up the media coverage. He always wants to go in front of the cameras and get the spotlight. And it's like to represent somebody like that you know is guilty, that the public knows is guilty. There's no way that she can possibly justify what she's done. For him to still stand there and say, nope, give us a nollie or nothing, and she's innocent, it just speaks to his character as well.
Well, I know the media doesn't like it, and they tend to crop it out, but that's why I stand behind him a lot of the times with that sign that says, don't buy this victim blaming bullshit, because that's what he's doing. He is victim blaming S, and it's a bunch of bullshit. So
yeah. So in your opinion, since you've been very active with following what's going on, what do you think is the most misleading narrative being pushed, whether by Colloidus or the media or other sources, to the public about this case? What do you think is the most misleading thing that is being pushed right now?
Everything coming out of Colloidus's mouth. He says all the time, like, oh, well, he wasn't held captive. He could have walked out at any time. There are so many issues with that one statement right there. Out of like, so much bullshit comes out of his mouth. There were locks on the door. There's that. So Kim and Craig got married in 1996, I think, just before S turned 3 years old. I'd have to double check that date, but he was 2 or 3 years old when they got married. Kim has had a lifetime of psychological manipulation and conditioning and torturing this poor guy, starving him. So when you have a lifetime of that, of just psychological conditioning and starvation, how is somebody supposed to just walk out the door and leave their abuser like that? He was an innocent little boy. That's what kills me with this. DCF showed up 6 times and showed, okay, we're not here to help. So let's say hypothetically he had tried to walk out that door. Where as a child is he going to go when he's already been failed by the police and DCF? Where is he supposed to go? So for Colloidus to sit there and say, oh, he could have walked out at any point, to where? Like, how do you, like, I just don't understand at all, like, how he can sit there and say, like, oh, Kim didn't do any of this. And it's like, there's so much evidence that, yes, she did. I feel so bad for S, just like lifetime of hell with Kim. That, like, I don't know how else to put that. That is absolute hell. Just everything he had to endure with her.
Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen again, because a lot of this kind of destroys Colloidus's claims. As you can see here, the police released some photos, and you can see like the boarded up windows.
Yeah. Well, that's because of the fire damage. It wasn't like that before the fire, but yeah. S did make the comment, his window in his room did not open.
So this is the room that he was allegedly held captive in.
We're not 100% sure, but everybody thinks that is the room, because out of all the pictures that have been released, it seems to have sustained the most fire damage, but we're not 100% sure that's the room.
So this is the bathroom.
Yeah.
You can see the conditions,
Mhm.
trash and dirt.
Yeah.
They released over 100 photos.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for him to say, oh, he could have just left, and even the fact that there was locked on the outside of the door, how can you just leave? So,
How is he supposed to have the strength to, because Colloidus did say that on Banfield on News Nation. Oh, well, I don't know what child you can put like lock in a room with a little slide lock or whatever. It's like, how does he have the strength to kick down that door? And it also says in the warrant, there was one time when he was, I want to say around 12 years old, he did break through the door when nobody was home. And all he did was go downstairs and eat food. That was it. And Kim came home and she saw that he had broken through the door and she slapped him in the face. And you can pull these pictures too. She applied plywood to both sides of the door so he wouldn't be able to get out again. So that's another very disturbing detail right there. You see these doors with the plywood and it's just like a little like square cut out around the door handle. That is a clear intent to keep somebody from breaking out of this door. So how is he malnourished? And even his elementary school principal said, oh, it was very clear he was smaller than all the other kids in his class. Colloidus himself said, oh, he was 20 pounds at 4 years old. He was 40 pounds at 8 years old. How is this tiny little boy supposed to break through this door?
exactly. And I think that the fact that they would seal the case in probate court is also concerning. And I know that some of the media had, gotten copies of records and some of that stuff prior to them sealing it, but now it's sealed. So we don't know who's going to be taken off, who's going to be appointed. And it seemed from what they had stated in the GoFundMe that he was supposed to have some of that money for legal fees. So if he's having an attorney, he should have the ability to choose who his attorney is if he's paying privately with donations. But if they're appointing him somebody,
Well,
we don't know how that attorney is getting paid. Are they using? That's another thing. A lot of times, people in probate, they'll assign like a conservator, receiver, all these different court-appointed people, and then all drawing a salary from your estate. So if these people are billing, where's that $340,000?
I mean, from my understanding, if it's a voluntary conservatorship, he does have a right to say, okay, I don't want Kristen anymore. I don't want this person or that person anymore. He does have that right. But is Kristen explaining that to him? I mean, I don't think S is stupid. I think he shows signs of being very intelligent, just the way he planned like how to like escape from Kim's house with like the hand sanitizer and setting the fire. I don't think he's stupid, but he also has a third grade education and doesn't. I mean, I barely understand how the court system works. How is he supposed to understand how the court system works? They intentionally make these systems like so overcomplicated for the average person to understand. And then I feel like that's just something they're going to use to like exploit him. I don't know if they're exploiting him. Like, I'm just asking questions, but yeah, I think there's a lot of red flags of what's going on. And now that Safe Haven has shut down the GoFundMe, that was very interesting. I had not seen that they had removed those updates because I just checked that a few days ago and it did not show that. I want to pull that back up too. I got to read that later too.
I think that we should compare and contrast if you have screenshots from the original description of the GoFundMe. It seems, yeah, definitely check it to what it says now, because I think they changed something, because I thought last time it said,
oh, this is absolutely different.
Yeah, it's definitely different, because last time it said specifically that the money was going to go towards him having an attorney, but I don't think that it says that anymore. So I'd love to see what they changed and before and after, and maybe you should make a Reddit post of before and after of the GoFundMe so they could see all the changes that they just made.
That's something to keep in mind. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I also noticed they didn't remove Kristen Exner's name either. So
they probably can't, because she was like a co-founder of the thing. But
it wasn't added on there until June.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they had to add her so she could get the money out.
Well, I'm just going based off their updates that they've removed, which that's insane to me. I was not aware of this. They did say we're about to transfer the money to his conservator. They said that in like, I want to say May. I don't know because the update's gone. So they were saying, oh, we're in constant communication with the conservator. And then now, yeah, this is completely different. Yeah.
And how convenient that they happened to delete all the updates and change the description right after 2 articles came out referencing the GoFundMe and the dollar amount. And
yeah, the messages people left are gone as well.
Really?
Yeah, there was a bunch of messages, like, because when you do a donation, you can leave like a nice little message. Yeah, I'm seeing those are all gone too. I don't know. That's crazy. I was not aware of this. I just looked at this like, I don't know, a day or two ago.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that's, I mean, they're definitely know that people are onto them, and the fact that they're deleting this information, sealing cases, every time that they see that the public is concerned, they just cover their tracks, hide it, and give
That's
more.
how I'm interpreting this, because there was a lot of stuff missing here.
Yeah, so that's something else that maybe should be looked into. And I mean, as somebody who, you know, I know you said that you just were a concerned citizen, you know, just somebody from Connecticut who heard about the case that was interested, and now you're following it, you know, regularly, and you're really into what's going on. What do you think the public and anybody else who cares about the well-being of S and wants to see a positive outcome in this case, what do you think the public should be asking regarding this case right now?
I mean, I think there needs to be more transparency. It's a complicated subject because we want to respect his privacy, but we also don't want to see him get exploited. So if you look at like the Turpin kids case out of California, are you familiar with that one?
I don't believe so.
Okay, that was very similar to what happened to S, except there were 13 kids and they were ranging from like age 2 to like age 30. So like half of them were adults, half of them were minors. And there was a very similar situation to like what happened to S, except they were like locked in a trailer behind the house. So they escaped, and this was back in 2018. And then the state stepped in this was the state of California. They said, oh, well, we're going to take care of everything. We're going to make sure these kids have everything they need. That's not what happened. So you can pull like this ABC article of like, where are they 4 years later? So this was like 2022. It was discovered these kids. So the minor children were placed with a pedophile. That was a whole other lawsuit, was that they were sexually abused in the home that DCF in California had like placed them in. That's a whole other failure right there. The adult children, they were left with housing insecurity, food insecurity. One of the older ones, like if you watch like the 911 tape, when she first escaped from the house, she didn't understand the concept of what a sidewalk was because she had not like ever been outside the house, like, and she was like 18 years old.
Wow.
These kids did not know like how to do anything. Or like the 911 responder was like, are you or anyone in your household on medication? She's like, what's medication? I don't know what that is. So these kids had no concept of how to like navigate the world, which is going to be the situation S is in. And they're being told like, oh, well, just Google it. They were left homeless. They were left couch surfing, no means to get food. Like you see, I think it was Jordan Turpin talking to ABC. She's like, yeah, I don't really have a way to get food right now. And it's like, wow, the state promised all this help for these kids, and this is where they're at. And they also had a conservator who seemed honestly like another Kristen, who was denying them access to their funds. There was like GoFundMe's, like there were like a couple of them that raised about $1 million for these kids. They had no access to these funds. One of the kids was like, I tried to ask for money to buy a bike so I could have transportation. I was denied money for a bike. So it's like, wow, these kids, like, they didn't really understand how to use like the bus system. They didn't have a driver's license or anything. Can't even get money for a bike. So the conservator was withholding like about $1 million for them. They, again, were not doing these like regular like financial reports saying like where this money was going or anything. Or they were doing it like really like years late. And I feel like the state of Connecticut is now setting up S to be in this exact same position. And it's like, we saw how this played out in California about I don't know, it was like 7 years ago when the Turpins were rescued. I don't want to see this happen to S. That's my biggest concern right now, is I feel like they're going to leave him in a situation where he can't access his money, or maybe Kristen's drained it all. I don't know what she's doing with the money. Nobody knows what she's doing. I know she doesn't get probate approval for stuff, apparently. And then it's funny, like Safe Haven's talking about like his housing needs and stuff. It's like, are they even going to hook him up with a house? Like, how is all that going to work? Like, is he even going to have the skills to live like independently? Is he getting any of that kind of like education or training on like how to be a normal adult? We don't know what's going on. So
yeah, and that's why it's concerning. Like, even though he's an adult, he's still, you know, under the care of this conservator and everything like that. And this is really concerning because
left her other client, Barbara Tobin, homeless. How are we supposed to know she's not going to do that to us?
exactly. We don't even know if he's in Connecticut. We don't know where he is. And there's no proof of life. There's no recent statements in months. He doesn't even speak, you know, through the attorney at the court hearings as making victim statements. And so we haven't heard a word from him. And if the money was supposed to go to attorneys and housing and things like that, even if GoFundMe takes 40% as a high number, there's enough money there to pay for 2 years worth of rent, all the attorney fees for a private lawyer that he wants, you know, specialists, food. There's enough money there for long term. And the fact that we have zero accountability, and if the case was not sealed, we would be able to see, because they're supposed to put an accounting of, you know, this is the estate, this is how much we're spending. And the fact that they're going to seal it is a huge red flag. So I'm just curious to see what happens if Kristen does get disbarred, and if so, who will replace her?
From what I've heard, she has until December 8th to respond to the Tobin's filings. I think the Tobin's attorney is supposed to have something later out today about that. But see, unless, I mean, it says Kristen Exner on the GoFundMe. So, I mean, they're going to have to update, or are they going to even update who the new person is if we reach that point where Kristen is kicked off the case and they appoint somebody else? How are we even going to know who the next person is? And how are we supposed to trust the probate system to appoint somebody that's actually going to do their job? After, why would you appoint Kristen Exner? Like, that one's mind blowing. I don't understand that one. All these prior like issues, and that's who they want to place in charge of him. All these, like, I mean, the Tobin issue's been going on for like 3 years. You're going to appoint somebody with ongoing lawsuits? Like, the hell is that?
That's what I mean. It's like they know her history, but they continue to appoint her way more than anybody else. So
Right.
who else is getting a kickback? You know, if they're selling these properties, where you hear about this a lot, where people are setting up a will or a trust, and then they go to the probate system thinking, okay, I'm going to inherit this from my grandparent or whatever it is. And then they find out that all the money gets siphoned away by all these attorneys and court appointed, you know, overseers of the estate. And then all your money's gone. And so it's somebody who can't like advocate for themselves. Like, it's even more concerning, because who is overseeing what's really going on other than the judge who's likely in on it?
Right.
So, you know, so, I mean, what do you think that the public can do to get more involved and more, you know, to raise awareness about what's going on, or help in any way, if you think there is any way to help?
I mean, really just asking questions and demanding accountability. I think they get away with this because they think nobody's really paying attention and nobody's really speaking up. And I think that's the saddest part of like how this even happened to us, is everybody wants to say, oh, that's not my business, I don't want to get involved in that. And for me, like, I don't want to invade his privacy. I just don't want to see him get exploited. And that's what I'm afraid is happening right now. I don't have proof. I don't know what the hell's going on behind the scenes. Nobody knows what's going on behind the scenes, but I think it's very important to ask questions and demand transparency, so we know he's not going to end up like the Turpin kids with no food and nowhere to live. And Kristen already has a history of leaving a client homeless. I mean, I don't know what more to say on that. Like,
Exactly. And it's like, we've already seen situations like Britney Spears and things like that, where these conservatorships are used to just steal all of their assets and leave them institutionalized or forcibly medicated. So it's just extremely concerning that we are given no information about his well-being, not even reassurance that he's okay, and not even saying, okay, you know, care packages and letters can be sent to this PO box. Nothing. We're
Care packaging, do letters, but I mean, and I did question Safe Haven a couple times about, is he getting these letters? And they could not give me an answer. So it's like, okay, you send a letter to Safe Haven, then there's a question mark, and then it gets to S. It's like, how is this mail getting to him? Like, I'm not asking to know the exact address. My question is, what is the process of how he's receiving this mail? Because even people in prison get access to mail. So I question whether they're purposely restricting his mail and further isolating him to further exploit him. That's my question. I'm not accusing them. I'm just asking. So I don't know.
Yeah. Why isn't he being given the option to have contact with his biological family? He's an adult. It's not like he's a child that's under custody of somebody else.
Right. Well, we don't know. We don't know if that's his choice or if it's the people around him's choice. So we really don't know what's going on there. I know from my conversations with Heather and Tracy, they don't know. They're not getting any answers. So nobody knows.
And do you know if they have tried to have conversations with, you know, Kristen directly or any of these other attorneys involved?
Not the attorneys, but I know Heather had tried to reach out to Dave Garino, and I'm not going to share like her like text, but she's shown me the screenshots of how uncooperative and dismissive Dave Garino was. So I've seen that. I know he ignored me when I tried to email him to ask whether or not S got the Nintendo DS I tried to send him. No reply on that. It was like, this is a simple yes or no thing. Either he did or he didn't.
Yeah, and who knows, like, if they sold it, took it, you know, who knows what these people are doing with it. And then it's like, it's not like you can send him a message and get a reply because they're blocking him from everything.
Well, exactly. I have been sending him letters since March. So that's been like one letter a month. That's about 8 now at this point. We're in November. So I wanted, and I straight up said that to him, that I wanted to like send him a letter just like monthly, just, you know, talking to him like a friend. So like I've written to him about like music or like places around Connecticut, stuff I've been doing with like work and just extracurricular sort of shit like that. TV shows, video games, shit like that. Just trying to talk to him like a normal person, not like, oh, you're such a poor victim, whatever. Just normal shit. I have not gotten any reply. So I know Heather and Tracy haven't gotten any reply. Nobody has gotten a reply. So it is a question of, is he alive or like what's going on? I just want proof of life at this point. And for Eugene Riccio to refuse to answer a simple question of like, oh, can you give a general update on how he's doing? Oh, I can't answer that. I find that offensive, honestly.
Yeah. And so if some way, somehow S could listen to this interview and watch this, what would you want him to know?
That he doesn't have to be alone. There's people that really care about him and want to be there for him. And I understand, like, it's probably scary to trust people after everything he's been through. And I get that because I've got my own trauma and I don't trust people for shit. But I think he deserves so much better than what life has given him so far. And there's people that do want to be there for him and do want to help him and like just be his friend. Not this circle of people that are gonna like exploit him or whatever. So I don't know if he were listening. I'm here for him. I would love to hear back from him. I'm not trying to pressure him or anything. I don't think he'll even write back to me, but I'm not going anywhere because I know what that's like to have absolutely nobody there for you. Because that's like been one of my biggest driving things of going to these hearings and trying to like advocate for him, because I know what that's like to have to deal with your abuser and nobody's there for you. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody stands up for you. And I want better for him. So that's why I'm doing this.
Well, thank you for being there for him. And it's really, you know, I commend you for going to these hearings and asking these questions and paying attention, because I know that maybe he might feel nobody cares, or he might feel alone, he might feel isolated, but I hope he knows that there's people that do care and that want to see him happy and thriving. And the whole situation is horrific, but I think that all of us
is to see him happy and thriving and independent and making his own choices, not like what Kristen wants, not what I want, not what anyone else wants, what he wants. And it's like, I just want to support him with whatever he wants. So
yeah, exactly. And he's been through so much. And so hopefully he's somewhere where he is safe and being taken care of. And if there are things happening behind the scenes that shouldn't be happening, I hope that they come to light sooner than later, and that those involved are held accountable. And I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Kristen, but you know, like if we have one less lawyer on the street that's exploiting and terrorizing families, then that's better for Connecticut in the long run.
right. Well, we'll see what happens.
And do you know when Kim's next court date is?
December 9th.
December 9th? Okay, so it's coming up. Oh, 19th.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see some movement in the case. And I mean, it doesn't seem like the prosecution wants to just let it go, you know, so it'll probably end up going to trial, but we'll see.
That seems to be where it's heading. I mean, I have a lot of empathy for him. I know what it's like to sit on a witness stand and have to testify against your abuser. So I don't want him to be forced into that position. If he doesn't want to do that, I fully understand how stressful that is. And that's more reason why I'm just going to keep showing up. Because when I had to go do that, nobody showed up for me. So I don't want him to feel alone. I'm going to keep showing up to support him as much as I can.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you you know, and you have a great heart. So keep doing what you're doing, and we need more people like you to look out for those who are vulnerable. And, you know, everybody needs people to look out for them. Sometimes it might be a stranger, it might be somebody you know, but we all need somebody. So thank you for being there for him and what you're doing. And maybe we can have a follow-up soon about some more developments as the case progresses. But I think that, you know, we're going to see some movement soon with what's come to light.
We'll see how it plays out.
Definitely. Well, thank you again for your time and for sharing with us today. And we'll look forward to seeing what happens next.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.